Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome along to the live updates from Downtown Radio Cool FM. I'm Stuart Robinson. It's Thursday afternoon, just gone 4:30 now. There was an executive meeting today. More in the way of easings were discussed, and we're going to bring those to you in just a second. But first, a piece of breaking news that's just come to us in the past couple of minutes, and it's to do with what I've been covering a lot of over the past few days as that heat wave has continued in Northern Ireland. There's the big news: another record day in Northern Ireland. The official Met Office weather station in Armagh City has just registered at 31.4 degrees Celsius. That now makes today the hottest day ever recorded in Northern Ireland. We told you about this yesterday, that if the record was once again to be broken, it did look like today would be the day, and probably the final day it could happen. Things look like they will start to cool down, albeit just slightly, over the next few days and as we get into the weekend. But 31.4 Celsius is the new Northern Ireland record. It was set and registered at just after 4 o'clock this afternoon at the weather station in Armagh. That means that Castledurg's title as not just the hottest ever place recorded in Northern Ireland from yesterday at 31.3 Celsius, but also the coldest place ever recorded in Northern Ireland when it hit temperatures of minus 18 back in the winter of 2010. They've now lost that title, and it's now going to Armagh. But of course, don't forget, Castledurg pinched the title from poor Ballywhatsacock, that only spent about 3 days literally in the sunshine, having set its new Northern Ireland record on Saturday afternoon when it hit 31.2 Celsius in the townland just a few miles outside Newtownards. The reason why all this weather stuff is significant and the extreme heat temperatures, in fact the Met Office weather warning has been in place now in Northern Ireland since yesterday to cover extreme heat, and it stays in place until tomorrow midnight. The reason for it, of course, this extreme heat and why the temperatures are so standout is that the last time we had these kind of temperatures in Northern Ireland, you have to go back 35 years. That's when the last record was set, back in 1983. And before that, you have to go back to 1976. So you can see exactly why these records are noteworthy and are phenomenal. 35 years in the making to get weather and temperatures of this kind in Northern Ireland. And here we go with 3 records all set now within the space of just 6 days. Rather incredible. Well, let's go to our chief reporter, who around now is melting in her chair at home. How are we holding up, Sasha Wiley?
Yeah, it's hot. It's the first time I think it's ever been so hot in Fermanagh, in County Fermanagh. So I'll just enjoy it while it lasts, because it's probably not going to last for too long. So I can't complain. Don't put a scud on it. It's lovely.
No, it is lovely. And again, I don't want to be the person that says it's too hot, but it is. I mean, it's
Don't say it. Don't say
31.4 now.
it.
No, well, another new Northern Ireland record set today. The title goes off to Armagh. Temperatures still rising across Northern Ireland, so that record could actually be very short-lived and could even be broken within the next couple of hours. We'll keep an eye on that for you. But Sasha, I want to get into the executive business of the day. Some of the restrictions have been eased, others haven't at this point. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so I suppose we'll start with the changes that were made. There was a whole host that were supposed to come in on Monday, but unfortunately, a lot of them didn't go ahead today as planned. Just 3 days before lots of places were due to open. So we'll start with the changes that will come into effect from Monday. So 15 people from as many households as you like can meet outdoors, and that's in your gardens and things like that. And then also close contact services, the likes of your hairdressers, nail bars, barbers, tattoo salons, they can open without the need for pre-booked appointments. They can offer that walk-in service that they haven't been able to offer before. So that's the only 2 changes, unfortunately, that have been made today out of that whole kind of host of restrictions that were supposed to be lifted a few weeks back that the ministers told us about.
Okay, and what's fueling the decision-making process in this deferral? Because of course they're kicking the can a little bit further down the road on the same week that England's now a free-for-all. They've had their Freedom Day, nightclubs are open, all legal restrictions have been removed a few miles across the water. What's going on here that's so different?
Yeah, I think speaking to health ministers as well, we were interviewing Professor Ian Young yesterday, and they're just really, really concerned about this new Delta variant, the spread of it. There's been over 9,000 new cases in the last 7 days. I think it was something like 1,400. Yes, as you can see there, a 1,400 cases today out of 4,000 people tested, and then that's also increasing then of course the hospital admissions as well. So 162 patients now have the virus, 10 people are in ICU. So I think that's kind of what their worry is as well, because the cases are starting to rise, hospitalizations are now starting to rise, and then unfortunately, as we saw before, the trend that it is, the deaths will start to rise as well. So I don't think they want to leap into any decisions. We've heard them say before that, we don't want to make a whole host of changes and then have to go back into some sort of lockdown, reintroduce them. So I think that was the reasoning behind their decisions today.
And in regards to those other decisions, then, what else was on the itinerary that we're now not going to be looking at for, well, at least to the other side of the weekend? And of course, all these were to kick in on the 26th of July, so many of these now just won't be happening next week at all.
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of anger, obviously, in certain parts of the hospitality sector, especially theatres and concert halls, that were supposed to open on Monday, and now they've been told, that they can't reopen. But the executive are holding another meeting again on Monday, and they're going to decide then if the likes of theatres and concert halls can reopen to the audiences again. And as you can see on their screens there, they're also taking the decision on the reopening of MOT centres, and they're also going to look at the indoor gathering limit. So they're hoping to increase that from 6 to 10 people from no more than 3 households. All these were due to come in on Monday. They were supposed to be rubber stamped today, but they haven't. Then if we move forward, the executive will then meet again on Thursday. Another big one is, I suppose, the levels on our sound levels on indoor venues. They're going to look at the restrictions then. That was obviously supposed to be rubber stamped today, but they've pushed that back now until next Thursday. Conferences and exhibitions, they're also going to discuss that on Thursday. That was due to be signed off today, and reducing social distancing to 1 metre. So going to be two executive meetings next week. They said they wanted to take the weekend, look over the kind of the stats, the health advice. They wanted to take that on board more, meet again on Monday, and then decide where to go from there. So it's a bit of bad news, I suppose, for a lot of people that were hoping, especially the sound levels, you could get music back up to where you wanted, but they're just being very cautious at the moment, I think.
Yeah, yeah, and of course a lot of gigs hang in the balance here as well. There's a lot of indoor concerts that are actually have been scheduled. Some have already had to be put back, and event organisers and indeed people who have tickets for these concerts for inside venues will be watching this space really quite closely. And the same with our friends in the theatres as well. They've been closed now. It looks like, along with nightclubs, they're going to be the very last parts of the world in Northern Ireland anyway to reopen. So they're going to be watching this space really very, very closely for this potentially changing again. I just wonder, Sasha, are all the different members of the executive in the same place on this, and looking over the data that you've talked about across the weekend? Short time ago, Paul Givan, First Minister, tweeted that the success of vaccination programme continues to reduce the link of COVID-19 and serious illness requiring critical care in our hospitals, and therefore the executive is able to relax restrictions on close contact services and outdoor domestic settings, the stuff that you've talked about there. But back to sort of his initial point, he seems to be saying, and of course Paul Givan, DUP, their view on this seems to be that actually, yes, there is a lot of community infection out there, and we see again over 1,400 cases today, but he's saying it's breaking the link or reducing the link with the serious illness requiring critical care. This is the vaccination program. So it would seem that from that they're fairly confident. Certainly DUP seem to be fairly confident that we are moving the right way, and the vaccination, the jab is doing its job.
Yeah, and it has always really been that split, hasn't it? The DUP have been very vocal about wanting to get things back open again. They said we had Arlene Foster, of course, the former First Minister, with that famous line saying, the economy's a bit like a tap. You can't turn it off and on again and just expect the water to start flowing again. They have been very adamant that they want things to reopen. Others have been quite more backwards about that, and very nervous about the COVID situation, and don't want to take too many risks. So you always are going to have that conflict. Look, there's five parties in this executive. Very, very rarely that they do agree on everything. We don't expect that from them. But I suppose today the meeting started about 11 and it was over again at 3. So they all seem to be singing off some kind of same hymn sheet here. I'm sure others would have wanted it to move faster. Of course, the DUP has the First Minister and the Economy Minister in there. They would have been pressing maybe to get more things opened again, and we haven't heard the ins and outs of that. But I think health officials were really warning against allowing too many restrictions. We've heard from them, earlier in the week to say we just can't go ahead like England and open up everything. Their so-called Freedom Day, as they're dubbing it over in England. So it is always is that balance between the executive and trying to find some kind of compromise within them.
And you mentioned that so-called Freedom Day that, of course, England have enjoyed this week. We know dates have now been set in the diary for Scotland and Wales to have similar kind of days where a lot of these legal restrictions will be removed. We heard 2 weeks ago that Northern Ireland's earliest date for the complete removal of things like social distancing, which would facilitate the reopening of nightclubs and things like that, and possibly mask wearing in certain scenarios, could be the 16th of August. Is it likely now, do you think, that with even these remaining items being kicked down the road a bit, 16th of August, yeah, it's going to be at its very earliest, but actually, if anything, it's probably going to be optimistic?
Definitely. Look, it's really hard to say when the COVID restrictions might end in Northern Ireland. It's really not entirely clear at the moment, as you were saying, from pushing things back. The decisions on easing restrictions, they have to be agreed by that five-party executive that they've just been discussing. Everyone has different views on it, and they'll have to consider advice from health officials about the spread of the variant, what different forms of the variant there are at that time. The weighing up the social, economic effects that the restrictions have on the public. As you were saying, both the First and the Deputy First Minister told us there that they're going to meet on the 12th of August to look at, lifting the likes of face coverings and the rest of the settings, and the requirement for self-isolation and travel. So, we are looking towards that kind of middle to end of August. But as you say, when things now are starting to get pushed back, given in mind that we are in summer as well, it's not looking too likely that maybe that date for the 16th of August will go ahead as planned. But ministers were saying as well, we were speaking to them earlier on in the week, they think that it's all to do with the vaccine programme, how well the uptake on that is as well. So, it's very much a lot of variables at the moment. As you can see there, the total vaccinations are now over 2 million in Northern Ireland. Yesterday there was only 12 first doses registered. I think there's only over just shortly over 50% of 18 to 30-year-olds have got their vaccine at the moment. So I think that's where the big push is now from the executive.
And is that not going to? I mean, that there to me looks like quite a worrying. It's not a statistic; it's a number, and the number's 12. So 12 people in Northern Ireland, and you're saying that what? How many? Another 20% still need to get their vaccination,
Yeah.
and only 12 people went and got their first jab yesterday. So clearly, I mean, just say it for how it is there, the vaccination rollout, as good as it's been in Northern Ireland, it's now halted, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And as well as that, then the health minister confirmed earlier this week that they're going to stand down the mass testing centres for first time jabs. So they're not going to be offering first time jabs at those big centres, the likes of the SSE, big leisure centres right across Northern Ireland that made it so much easier to get the vaccine as well. So it seems that it's going to be harder to get the vaccine once they stand those kind of centres down. Of course, it's probably because restrictions are starting to lift, and they need that space back again.
It's interesting to see on the world leaderboard now, Sasha. whilst Northern Ireland's rollout there has been fairly impressive and has been the whole way through within the top 10, but our friends in the Republic of Ireland now are sort of breathing down our neck. Of course, they got off to a really sluggish, slow start. Now they're leading Europe in the rollout. The fact that we share that land border is going to be critical, and that's good news, I suppose, isn't it? Well, it's good news in any case, but particularly good news that our closest neighbour is almost matching us now for vaccination rate.
Absolutely. And as well, that we have to consider in Ireland, we heard earlier that ministers were also saying that you may have to have your double vaccination to be able to enter restaurants and things like that as well. And they're also working on a kind of all island passport for that. Of course, people that had Irish passports living in Northern Ireland were supposed to be allowed to get the Irish COVID app, which would mean that it would make travelling easier throughout the rest of the EU. That didn't materialise because it turns out that they got their vaccines in Northern Ireland, so they weren't able to use that app. Meetings are now underway to try and link it up between the two countries, see what they can do, kind of make it that both sets of islands that they can link up and you share that kind of information. Of course, sharing of information between the Northern Ireland and the Republic, it really hasn't been great. We had the travel locator issue forms, the vaccines, and now we've got this app issue. So if you're even going down then to maybe have a meal down south, then it means that you might need some kind of proof that you've been double vaccinated as well. And I suppose that's where the confusion lies with a lot of people here too, that where some places are so close to that border that there's going to be different restrictions at different times as well.
Yeah, I mean it's a minefield really, and however they're going to get all this joined up and working together, I really don't know. These are the numbers we're looking at in the Republic of Ireland right now. This is the total number of vaccines that have been given out. You can see there's 4 different ones in circulation there, mostly the Pfizer one with 3.5 million shots of that given out, just over 1 million then of the AstraZeneca. So certainly an accelerated program in the Republic of Ireland, and fairly much now mirroring the same rate or per population as Northern Ireland's rollout. But as you say, Sasha, this will be a cause for concern. Only 12 people stepped forward in the entire Northern Ireland yesterday for their first vaccine. It seems to me that anybody who wants it or is prepared to get it has now got it, and those who don't want it for whatever their own personal individual reasons are, and that is totally fine, they're not getting it. It's hard to know if anything will change their mind at this point, other than perhaps if we see scenarios like what you're talking about in the south, where entry to a nightclub or entry to get into a restaurant could be based on whether or not you're double jabbed. It seems controversial here, but that's what they're doing as of Monday in the Republic, correct?
That's correct. And then we also heard in England as well, from the end of September, you're going to have to be double vaccinated to get into the nightclubs as well. So it does seem to be, that trend that they are starting as well. Then we've heard in terms of travel as well, certain countries only letting you in if you've had the 2 jabs as well. So it does seem to be moving in that direction. However controversial it may be, it seems to be going in that direction.
And it is controversial. I suppose people may be feeling that they're being pushed into getting a vaccine that they otherwise don't want in order to have just basic, simple freedoms that you would have taken for granted 18 months ago. We've already seen it, of course, come into play with the UK travel arrangement in terms of those amber countries where the isolation is no longer required on return from amber countries for those that are double jab. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the uptake does increase, and it clearly is among the younger people in Northern Ireland, those under 35 years of age, where the rollout has halted. And I suppose with the news as well that the SSE Arena and these sort of major vaccination sites are going to be stood down, Sasha, it does look in many ways that they're kind of saying, look, this is not going to go on indefinitely. if you want it, it's available. It will save you. It will save those and protect those around you. But if you don't and you end up getting ill, there feels like a little bit of an unsaid thing here. Well, that's going to be down to personal choice, therefore.
Absolutely. And I think also as well, it's worth noting that I think their focus is moving on to those kind of mobile testing sites, the ones that are driving about. You can just drop in and get it. You don't need to have an appointment. They're trying to make it easier for young people so they don't have to take too much time out of their day to, go online, book their job, maybe travel somewhere for it as well. So they are trying to make it a lot easier for young people to be able to get the job and be able to assess it better. Whether that works or not, I don't know. It seems to be the direction that they're going in now, and that's why they're standing down these big sites and bringing it more to kind of local towns, villages, areas like that. Whether it works or not, I suppose, as you were saying, only time will tell, but it really does seem to be that things are shifting towards that vaccine passport almost for freedom. I know the Health Minister Robin Swan, had kind of a lot of concerns about that at the start. It was a few months back when the whole kind of issue came up about the vaccine passports, and he was kind of warning against it. He didn't think it was very fair to do something like that. But if other countries are starting to do it, I would think, given what has happened in the past, that Northern Ireland will follow suit.
Yeah, it does feel that way, and the tide is turning a little bit, and it feels that generally throughout this whole thing we've been covering from the start now, it feels like, and we have heard politicians and more people beginning to talk about, and then we hear this term personal responsibility and personal accountability, and it seems that that's maybe where we're going to be moving here throughout this next phase as we move into the back end of the summer. Just finally then, Sasha, for those joining us coming in late on our Facebook Live today, I'll recap on the weather just at the very end if you missed that big headline that's just been announced in the past 30 minutes or so. But also on the back of that, executive have been meeting today as normal. They've got their own headlines they've put out. So just recap us again and remind us what's changing and what's not changing.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll start with Monday, the changes that are coming in there. 15 people from as many households as you like can meet indoors, and your close contact services can open without the need for your pre-booked appointments. So they're allowed to take walk-ins from Monday. Then on Monday, the executive are going to meet again, and they're going to decide then if theatres and concert halls will be allowed to reopen to audiences. Of course, they're only open at the moment for kind of rehearsals and things like that. So they're hoping to allow that to happen come Monday. They're also going to look at the indoor gatherings, so the private settings, household visits. They're going to see if that can be increased to 10 people from no more than 3 households. And there'll also be a decision on the reopening of test centres. Now, if they do approve them on Monday, they will come into effect immediately. It won't be set for another date. They'll either push it back or it will happen and it will open straight again on Monday. Then if we move down the week to Thursday, they're going to have another meeting. This time that meeting will be about the restrictions on sound levels on your indoor venues, so your bars, pubs, restaurants, conferences and exhibitions, whether they'll be able to go ahead. And they're also going to look at reducing the social distancing rule to 1 metre permanently. It's 1 metre plus at the moment, but they advise 2 metres. They're going to see if they can bring that down now to 1 metre. Also, just one final one, they're also due to review the wearing of face coverings in places of worship. There you can see, except when entering and leaving the building. So when you're sat down in your pew, can you take your face covering off?
Okay, got decent update then today, I suppose. Some good news for being able to meet up with more people outside. We certainly got the weather for that, although ironically enough that doesn't come into effect legally until Monday. If you want a big barbecue around your back with 15 people from 15 different households, well, yeah, that'll be bang on time for the weather taking a turn, no doubt, next week, and the return of rain typically in Northern Ireland. So the 2 executive meetings then next week, Monday and Thursday, and we might hear a little bit more on both occasions about what comes next here, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. So then they'll start to have, I suppose, we're getting then into August, which is really scary to think where did July go. But then they'll have to start them conversations about, that so-called Freedom Day, or the day that all the restrictions are lifted, the removal of face masks everywhere else, social distancing, all the restrictions that are still in place.
Okay, good. Right, can't come soon enough in my book. As always, our chief reporter, Sasha Wiley. We'll let you go and dry yourself off there. I think we're both sitting under our studio lights here, and it's a
So
very hot day across there. We're soaking, so enjoy that weather. We'll see you soon.
thank you.
And on that, yeah, we've just had Northern Ireland's warmest day ever recorded. Armagh, the title now goes to 31.4 degrees, was just registered within the past half hour at the weather station, the official Met Office weather station in Armagh City. That now means that within the space of 24 hours, a record that was previously held for 35 years in Northern Ireland has been once again been broken. Yesterday, Castle Derg registered 31.3 degrees, and that broke the title that was set on Saturday from the townland of Ballywatsacock in the townland of Lochrees, just a few miles outside Newtownards, which set that 35-year high on Saturday when it clocked in at 31.2. And look, the race isn't over yet. Temperatures are still rising in some places across Northern Ireland. The sun is still very high in the sky. It is still extremely warm out there. The Met Office weather warning remains in place for the rest of the day and all day tomorrow for extreme heat in Northern Ireland. The Met Office have never needed to issue a warning for extreme heat ever. That's the first time one of these kind of warnings has been issued to tell people to take care, sun up, keep yourself hydrated, try to avoid exhaustion, and of course if you are going to be around coastal areas and bodies of water, please exercise extreme care. So all that contained within that Met Office weather warning, and with that the temperatures could even surpass Armagh's current record high. We're beating it every day at the moment. Could it go to beating it maybe before the end of the evening is out, of course. We'll keep you up to date through the Downtown Radio Cool FM social media channels. And that's our update for Thursday afternoon. Thanks for looking in on us. Enjoy that weather. Stay safe out there on Northern Ireland's hottest ever day recorded. 31.4 Celsius. From me, Stuart Robinson. Bye for now.